karavavahai tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So, when things don't happen according to your desires, then how you respond is something which is very important. Because in fact, in many of my classes, I ask people how many percentage of things go your way in your life. So the maximum that I have heard is about 50%. So 50% of the things go my way and 50% of the things don't go my way. And 50% is probably one of the highest I have heard. So that means that 50% of the things didn't go your way, and how you had some response. And how did you respond to that situation? Okay? And the response is that, disappointment, a sense of failure, frustration, anger, all fears for future failures, all these are very natural, right? This is how the mind is able to understand, oh my God, everything is not happening according to my, my plan. So therefore, how then if a spiritual person says, no, you be same. So how? It's impossible. It seems impossible. It sounds very nice to hear because you do want to have a certain equanimity, but it's actually not possible. How do you move from that to this without any change of shift in perspective? Retaining exactly the same knowledge base, it's impossible to shift from this to that position. The only way to naturally move towards equanimity is what? Absolutely. Understand the world differently. Retaining your understanding at the same level, it's impossible to shift from frustration, anger to equanimity. Anybody who tries to do that is creating a huge disconnect. The only way is through Ishvara, as Rachna is saying. Only way is to understand that the results are what? Not in my hand. This is a fact. It's fact-based. I have an illusion of control, but that is an illusion. It's not reality. So what is the reality? That I don't totally control the result. The result comes from the laws. And the laws have a time, they work within a time dimension, which is what? It is connecting the causes and the causes and the causes. What is it? I just know what the cause is. Yeah, very, very short kind of time and information. Whereas these causes, which are what? It connects, these laws connect the causes of so many of the past as well as what? The interconnections. And it just gives me the right result that is due to me at that given point in time. The minute I understand that, then what will I do? It will naturally what? Take me off from this mindset of trying to blame somebody. Or the mindset where I blame yourself. And it will give you a mindset where you say, okay, now this is the laws within which I am operating, and let me identify something more which I could have overlooked, and what do what needs to be done, right? Improve my efforts in some specific direction, and also ultimately recognize that, also then use prayers as one additional variable which will increase the probability of your things happening, because it's an action and it has to produce a result. So using all these tools, you convert that anger into what? Proactiveness. It's not passivity. It's not like, yeah, Ishvara's laws have produced a result, so now what, everything is wonderful. That's not what we are saying. That there are reasons for things to happen the way they happen, whether I like it or I don't like it. So instead of grumbling and being angry, what I find proactive ways of influencing things in a way that what I want them to be. Retry. And also there is a point where you have to say, hey, I have tried enough, right? And you also what? I can withdraw now. So all these lucidity, who can tell? You only have to make those choices. Right? There is nobody else who can tell you, yeah, now you try one more time or you give up now. It's all your own interaction with the universe. And for this interaction, you need to be intelligent. You have to constantly help yourself to what? Trying to find, are there any variables which I'm not what taking into account, which I can take into account? Am I making adequate effort towards what every variable that I have identified? And if things are totally unknown and unknowable, then the only tool I have is prayer. There is no other access. So this is how you begin to change your responses to situations. In light with what? Change in understanding. Not artificially trying to be the same. Artificially trying to be the same means you will become a wacko. So the only way is Ishvara. Through this whole growth is Ishvara. Ishvara based. How you live, yeah, how you live your life is all with this understanding of Ishvara. So if you want to not accept the entity Ishvara, there is no match between what Vedanta is saying and where you are operating from. So this is where, and all these different analyses of that presence and that presence, I mean, who can deny so many things that are being told? At least I don't find anybody who is listening with a fresh mind and who is opening oneself to a certain wisdom can deny any of these things. Unless you create artificial barriers. So this is where what he says that dharma aviruddhaha kamaha aham asmi. Okay? So kama, which is dharma aviruddha, I am Ishvara. So don't have complex for having desires. Spirituality is not about eliminating desires. Spirituality is about what? Using your capacity to desire judiciously. And when you do that, you are in harmony with Ishvara. Now, the next verse, it says, Ye chaiva satvika bhava rajasastamasascha ye matta eveti tad vidhi vatvaham teshu te mai. This is a very significant verse because now, up to now, everything glorious was said to be what? Ishvara. So Rashna's question was, yeah, but you don't only see glorious things, you don't only see brilliance, you don't only see intelligence, you don't only see beauty and aesthetics. All this is of course there, but you also see violence, you see wars, you see meanness, jealousy, so many things. So where are they from? Can you say they are not from Ishvara? They have to be from Ishvara. So this is exactly what it's a nice kind of a thing that there was this very famous psychologist called Carl Jung. Okay.
Yes, you.
Huh?
Of course, Kali.
Yeah, Carl Jung. And Carl Jung had this whole thing, and he says, he had this whole thing is that is there God or not? Right? He was debating on that, and he said, and the general idea that we have of God is what? All love, all compassion, right? So this is what we give only positive attributes to Ishvara. So then he asked, but you see so many negative things in this universe, so only if the positive come from Ishvara, where are the negatives coming from? So then, what the people who give only positive attributes to Ishvara, they have to create another entity, a devil. Right? And so all the negative things come from devil. So now, he said, so how much of the humanity, how much good you see and how much bad you see? Almost, if you're a little optimistic, maybe almost equal. Let's give it optimistic, right? Almost equal. So that means there is God, and then there is another equally powerful force, which is Saturn or devil or whatever, and what there is always fight going on between what God and evil. And therefore, can you call this Ishvara all power? You can't, because there is another power that he always constantly has to fight. And there is a lot of many times it seems as though the other one prevails. So then he said, if there is another entity and it's almost equally powerful, or at times seems to be more powerful, then why should I pray to Ishvara? He is as helpless as me. He is also fighting. He is also struggling. So what did he conclude? There is no Ishvara. What did he reject was what? The idea of Ishvara as being only good. Unfortunately, what he did not have with him was Vedanta. Right? Because Ishvara, the idea of Ishvara in Vedanta is what? Not good or bad. It is the intelligence. Intrinsically, can you give any value to that intelligence? No. It makes what? All the minds, and the minds what have a certain qualities, and the qualities depending upon the choices you make, it gives you results. So this is exactly what is explained in the next verse. Ye chaiva satvika bhava rajasastamasascha ye matta eveti tan vidhi natvaham teshu te mai. So that means the world is not just all good things. In the world you see what? Sattvic, Rajas and Tamas. Okay. And all three are from Ishvara. Right? So there is this Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. The ideas are used in two ways, two different ways. In Tattva Bodha, we have not done.
Yes,
we have done
very
Tattva
first.
Bodha, the very first. We
The
did
Arnas.
Viveka Chudamani. Arnas, yes, exactly. Yeah. So we did Tattva Bodha, where it, in the organization of the universe, it says that there are 5 elements. Which are the 5 elements? Akasha, Vayu, Agni, Apaha and Prithvi. And each of these 5 elements have 3 qualities. What? Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. And we had the whole model. You saw that, right? The whole model is from the Sattvic Amsha of each of these 5 elements, are what? 5 sense organs. Because sattva stands for knowledge. So the 5 sense organs come from sattvic amsha of each of the elements. And from the 5 sattvic amsha of 5 elements combined together comes what? The mind. Then from the rajasic amsha of the 5 element comes what? Your organs of action. Because rajas stands for action, activity. So from organs of action come from the rajasic amsha of the 5 element, and 5 elements, the rajasic amsha of 5 elements combined together gives what? Prana. This prana makes all the actions possible, without which it's not possible. Then from the tamasic amsha of the all 5 elements comes the gross body. So this is a model which is used, which is what? That not only the living beings have what? Sattva, rajas and tamas, but even the elements of everything which is arranged is a result of what? 5 elements coming together. Now, in addition to this way of looking at the world, among living beings also you see what? People of 3 different types of minds. That is a different definition. One is a mind which is sattvic, the mind endowed with sattvic qualities. The other one is what? A mind which is endowed with rajasic quality. And the third is a mind which is taken to tamas. So that means this possibility is also from Ishvara. Now, which one are you going to develop? So what is, first of all, what is a sattvic quality of mind? Then there are a lot of chapters which define what is a sattvic quality of mind. So when there is clarity, when there are values, all this emotional maturity, dharma, objectivity, this is all a function of what? Sattvic mind. What is a rajasic mind? Rajasic quality. Yeah, ambitious, active, want to get things done, right? So this is what we call the rajas guna. And what does tamas stand for?
Lethargic? No.
Lethargic, lazy. So you see all, this is not something that you see, when you see people, you see these qualities.
It can be a blend.
And then, in fact, what Bhagavad Gita says is, there is no human being which is only sattvic. Right? Everybody is combination of all three, mixed. But within that mix, which is predominant, is a what? The personality, predominant character. Okay? So here he says that the mind which has these, it can remain lethargic, it can remain what? Lazy, it can remain very gross in its responses, just instinctive responses, or it can become what? More active, more ambitious or whatever, or it can become what? Understand life a little bit better, gain clarity, follow dharma. So these are all the possibilities that are given within human mind. And in all three there is what? Ishvara. So now imagine you come with a given disposition. Let's say you come with a sattvic disposition. Okay, so that means somebody who has certain clarity, who has a certain kind of brilliance, right? Now, is it that you will only continue there and improve upon it?
It's to go in the other direction.
Exactly. You can also go in another direction. So that is the whole thing of free will. You may come with an advantage. So imagine you come with this brilliance and you use that brilliance to do a huge scandal, corporate scandal. then what you came with that brilliance, you came with that clarity, but how have you used your free will? You actually have pulled yourself down. So that means that any advantage that you are born with, that doesn't stay permanently with you. You have to keep working at it. So imagine you are given brilliance and you become very, very successful, right? From that success comes arrogance. And that arrogance, what makes you use your power in a wrong way. Manipulating people or creating fear or creating rules which are not... I'll just give you a very interesting example. Okay? I was once invited to one corporate to give a corporate training. And the person who was the head of this organization was kind of spiritual, right? So every morning he used to make his employees say a few things, right? The one thing the person made everyone say is that I can accomplish everything that I want in life. The second is, I'm extremely happy. So these are all the things that he made people repeat. Then he has some hundreds of employees. So when I was called, so they wanted to show how there is this whole spiritual culture in this organization. So he made them, all the employees, get up and say all these things.
What did you do? What did you do?
So then I mean that time I can't say that it is, it's all...
Yeah, you have to be subtle.
You have to be subtle.
You have to be direct.
But what I, over a period of time, I said, imagine that every employee has their own life, right? And on the day, let's say somebody passes away in their family, and you have to go there and say, I'm extremely happy. What are you creating? Such an illusion. In the name of spirituality, you are creating an illusion. Right? So these are all, you think that you are imbibing a very spiritual culture and all, but you are doing damage. And slowly they were losing many people because all the employees are saying all these things, but they don't feel anything because they see non-authenticity there. And it's all well-meaning, but it doesn't do the job because it doesn't correspond to realities. Okay? So therefore, this the arrogance can also work in a way that you feel that you are spiritual and you have figured out how what culture you want to imbibe, and you can be totally delusional. Under the garb of spirituality, damage is done. So this is where you have to be very careful in how this so-called remaining sattvic is not easy. You can go on a trip without even realizing it. Okay? And imagine you are born as predominantly a Rajasic person. Do you only remain Rajasic? No. You can what? Become Tamasic, or you can become Sattvic. Your own free will. There are so many people who entered the whole business corporate world with a lot of ambition, and they reached a point where they became huge philanthropists. So much of their wealth is just given for causes. There is an evolution. The person is not just, you can't categorize and say anybody who works in this corporate world is evil, and anybody who works is just driven by money motive. And I mean, these are all irresponsible statements. Anytime anybody can evolve. You can be born with that disposition. You can either go up, you can remain the same, or you can come down. Sattvic the same. You can become more sattvic, you can reduce it down to rajasic, or you can become tamasic. And tamas is the same. If you're born a tamasic person, doesn't mean you always remain a tamasic person. You can become rajasic, or you can also become sattvic. There are examples in our whole thing. Valmiki, for example, he spent so many years being a thief. Then he shifted to the Mahakavi. Okay? Not just a normal poet, a very distinguished poet, right? The depiction of characters in Mahabharata, how the interactions, they are beautiful. Predicaments, how people respond in times of crisis, all this is just brilliant. So this is where any time any possibility is given. So you start with an advantage doesn't mean anything. Or you start with a disadvantage also doesn't mean anything.
No, that's a disadvantage. It doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, it doesn't mean anything. So many times people create this world, this whole category. So many people come to me and as Vedanta, they think they are very smart. So they ask me, so they said, oh yeah, so if Ishvara is there, then why some people are disadvantaged, unprivileged, and some people are privileged? This whole categorization itself shows that you really don't know the nuances of human existence. There is no human being who's privileged in every sense. Doesn't exist. There is something, you can have privileges in some areas and you have disadvantages in some areas. Challenges in some areas. And even if you are born with everything perfect as that life unfolds, by 40s everybody has had their fair share of ups and downs. And the person that you are calling less privileged can reach places much more than who you think is privileged. So therefore it's in a constant flux. And in that flux there is what you need to be alert. And you constantly have to try to be that whole thing of human striving to be in harmony with Ishvara, in harmony with Dharma, in correcting the emotion is so important to keep you on that track. But at any time you can go off and then there are repercussions. So the repercussions are in form of all the things that you were describing. Wars, they are not small repercussions. Right? Either it can be wars within family, at the micro level and at a macro level. Conflicts. All, these criminals, if you look at their background, they all were many of them have a very difficult childhood. They come from families where they were very badly abused. So what happens? There is a kind of some centers of the brain get so damaged. So this is why they say that if you spend time with that criminal and if you have time and patience to correct everything, the person can change. But who has the time and patience? Nobody has. So what do? We put them in jail. Which is also necessary for some, because otherwise if you don't have time, you can't leave them loose. So this is where all the possibilities are there. Can you now tell Ishvara, this is what, if Ishvara is all powerful, why is there war and misery in this world? And why, if it is all powerful, why doesn't he fix it? Typical questions. Because what is the problem with this question?
Because the choices are unlimited.
The problem in this question is that you think that Ishvara is one individual
He guides you.
and who is all power, and he can just shift everything and he doesn't do it. But that very idea of Ishvara is wrong. Ishvara is in form of what? This intelligence which pervades everything, and all possibilities exist within Ishvara. And the minute you collapse those possibilities in one way, the laws give you consequences. Can you blame the laws?
Sure, actually.
The laws of gravity will work and you have overlooked and you fall. Can you say the gravity is mean? Is so unjust? It will do its job. Right? Can you attribute to this unfairness to the laws? This is where we all go wrong. And our teacher had a very nice way of explaining this. And he said that imagine you go and rub against the tree. What will happen? You will get bruised. Can you blame the tree? The tree will say, what he said, you will tell the tree, why did you do it to me? The tree will say, I'm just standing here. I didn't run after you. You used your free will to come there, and you used your free will to rub against me, and what happened? You got rubbed in the process. We use our free will. We use our free will retaining our limited infrastructure. When a human being is given the capacity to expand one's visions of things and behave differently, you don't collapse that possibility and you continue to behave in a myopic way, then you create a mess. Then situations arise in your life which just indicate to you that you are not in harmony. Then you blame again the world and Ishvara. And then you conclude there is no Ishvara, because if Ishvara was there, I would not go through this difficult situation. All non-understanding. So much confusion. Then you become more angry. Then you think you are very smart. Right? So these are all compensations for non-understanding. But you want to feel you are good and you are very smart, you are very intelligent. So this is where he says that not only in good things, but you have to understand Ishvara as impartial laws. Set up the universe with certain configuration. So this is where that 15-year-old child, he told me that why everything, if Ishvara is that intelligence which is everywhere, and if I pray to Ishvara for things to go in my way, why doesn't he answer my prayers? So I told him that if you want that you make this fall, but you want it to go up, can Ishvara answer that prayer? Ishvara cannot answer the prayer, because if Ishvara tries to answer that prayer, what will happen?
There would be chaos.
The whole world will go, because the gravities not only decide that this object falling, they also decide how all the planets are held in position and everything. It's not just, so therefore and then I said the same thing to him. I said, if you do something really mean and you want to be very successful and you pray for that success, will that happen? God answered all your prayers. Because even Ishvara cannot go against the laws. The laws are manifestation of Ishvara. Not there is Ishvara is one thing and laws are something else. Ishvara is manifesting in form of laws. The intelligence which connects you and me is following laws. You can't bypass those laws. So this is why everything is within Ishvara. You need to encompass everything unpleasant. Because if you don't, then what will happen? You have these two entities. And when you have two entities, that all power is just a namesake. If you really mean all power, which is Ishvara, there is no next other power at all. Don't create entities which they don't exist. Everything is within Ishvara. So this is what he says. Yeche satvika bhavaha rajasas tamasaschaye matta eveti tadviti. They all come from me. So then, natvam ham teshu temai. This is the second part which is very important to understand, because when I say everything is within Ishvara and Ishvara is all pervading, then also a lot of people ask, so that means criminal is also Ishvara? The murderer is also Ishvara? A thief is also Ishvara? Yeah, Kashi is saying yes, the whole Rudram is that. But then Ishvara becomes what? Full of what? Very ugly qualities also. The distorted. And this is where this whole thing that Surya was talking about, this understanding Satya Mithya, is a very critical thing. He says, everything exists in me, but I am independent of everything else. Otherwise, Ishvara will become what? Evil. So all the possibilities are within Ishvara, but Ishvara is free from that. And that is something which is not just for Ishvara, it's in every Satya Mithya relationship. Every Satya Mithya relationship is like that. At every level it is like that. So what is Satyam and what is Mithya? Satyam is defined as that which has independent existence. And Mithya is defined as something which has a dependent existence. Right? So now, let's examine, now all of you know this, so I don't need to spend a long time with it, but generally, the way we live our life, this table we think is what? The reality. If we think about the reality, we think about what? This table as reality. What Vedanta says is true, it is there. Nobody is denying, nobody is saying that it's an illusion or anything. But this table doesn't have the reality that you attribute to it. It has a dependent reality. Dependent reality means it is mithya. What does mithya mean? It means that the table cannot exist without the wood. So if I take out the wood, what will remain? Nothing. Right? So now, this table is what we call mithya. So what is satyam? What has an independent existence? The wood. Right? In this particular example, wood is called satyam. It has an independent existence. Why? Because before the table came, wood was there or not? Yes. While the table is existing, is the wood there or not? Yes. Once the table is dismantled, the wood is there or not? So that means, while the table depends upon wood for its existence, wood does not depend upon table for its existence. This is a relationship. Satya Mithya relationship. So now, are there two things, table and wood? It's only one. So why do we have two names? Excellent. The wood gets another name called table with reference to what? The form and the function. So the wood will also get another name called a chair, which is what? Another form. So that means you can see many different forms, and when your drishti is in forms, how many will you see? When your sight is on the forms, you will see many. But if somebody points that all these different forms have one content, which is the wood, and if your vision is on the wood, how many woods are there? It's one. Do you need to dismantle all these different forms in order to come and see the wood? Do you? No. Do you need to have some special experience? Do you need to separate the wood and table? One is Satyam and the other one is Mithya, so let me separate the two. You will never get it. You will never separate. It's not a question of separating. Where there is Mithya, that's exactly where Satyam is. Pervading the Mithya, the Satyam is free from the attributes of Mithya. The table has what? Length. The table has width. The table has dimensions. The wood is pervading the table. It is free from all these dimensions. Why? Because you can dismantle it and create a totally different dimension. Intrinsically, it never takes on the dimension of what? The table. Pervading it, it's free.
Without which a table doesn't exist.
Without which a table does not exist. So that means, now, this is very important. The wood can say that what? The table cannot be without me, but I am free from being the table. This is exactly what he says. He says the entire Jagat cannot exist without me, the intelligence. But I am free from all these different qualities. Because this is how the relationship between Satya and Mithya is. Right? So now let us look at all these Sattva, Rajas and Tamas qualities that we talk about with reference to mind. Where do they exist? In the mind. Right? Mind is what? The neurons, all the chemicals, the electrical connections and everything. So now there is one person who makes what? Tamasic choices. The other one makes sattvic choices. And the third one makes rajasic choices. With this same capability that one has. What is Ishvara? That which what makes what the neurons what they are. Right? And which makes what the chemistry what it is. The electrical connections what they are. The whole arrangement within which all these possibilities exist. Itself is something which is, now imagine that you with your mind have sadness. You are feeling the sadness. Without neurons, can you feel the sadness? No. But can you attribute sadness to neurons? No. Satya Mithya relationship. Without neurons, there is no, the entire emotional life depends upon neurons. Neurons are what? Independent. Because the same neurons have to give you different experience. Itself is free from every emotion that comes and goes. At every level it is like that. If neurons themselves don't get affected by the changing emotions that you have, then what to talk of that intelligence which makes the neurons what they are? Untouched. While all these experiences are going on, itself is free from it. So, Carl Jung didn't understand the nature of Ishvara like that. If he understood, he would have known it. The Jagat is Bhakti. The entire Jagat is collapsed into what? Ishvara. You look at any object, right? There is what you can keep on going from what the table to wood to atoms to particles to quarks, and then what? They don't know. Because where is their focus? On object. Because the whole science is based on perception and perception based inference. And they don't find, and then in fact they keep on going, and it all just becomes really, you ask any scientist, they say then there is no tangible objects anymore. Just equations.
Concepts.
And concepts. Right? And where science ends, Vedanta begins. From these concepts, the tiniest objects to come, and then for them to combine together at every level and acquire what? Additional qualities at every level of assemblage, and make the whole thing possible. Is Ishvara only down below? It's at every level. At every level there is Ishvara. At the level of particles coming together, atoms, making it into a wood, then a human being who can make a table, at every level there is Ishvara. The possibility that is given to a human mind where it can make that table. That intelligence pervades each and everything. While it facilitates everything, itself is what? Free from the whole show. This is why within Ishvara all kinds of characters exist, but Ishvara doesn't become what? Either good or bad. It's free. Within which all these possibilities exist.
We don't just have to disassociate bad with Ishvara, but also good.
Also good. Absolutely. Absolutely. As long as you associate good with Ishvara, then you have to answer, then what about bad? And then if it is also, then it becomes bad and good, then what is this? So you have to say within which all these possibilities exist, itself is free. Because it is free, there is what?
It isn't it. It isn't that.
Yeah. It is much more than anything and the qualities of anything that you see. So, this is what he says. This is a very important verse, because Ishvara being everything, then these are the problems that you can come up with. But all these problems do not, they can be understood to be not problems if you understand this Satya Mithya relationship. So now, one thing is also that you must understand that when there is table, there itself, there are all these levels, all here. Where there is table, there exactly where the wood is. Where there is wood, there exactly where atoms are. Where the atoms are, that's exactly where particles are. And where the particle is, that's exactly where the intelligence. So it's all the way and at all levels. So nothing is separate from Ishvara at every level. So if you try to separate Ishvara and see it as some intelligence separate from everything else, you'll never find it. You'll only find forms, and you need to figure out the presence of Ishvara.
If you separate it, it becomes separate.
Yeah,
like
it
an
becomes
element.
a given object within time and space. The minute I try to separate it, I make what Ishvara is one thing, everything else is separate, divided within time and space. So that means it will become just one object in the universe. So this is what he says, that pervading everything, I am free from everything. Okay? So that he says, Tribhir gunamayair bhavaihi ebi sarvamidam jagata mohitam nabhijanati mamebhyah paramam vyayam. So if, in fact, wherever you touch any object, you are touching what also? Ishvara. So therefore, here he says that, in fact, as Surya was saying in the morning, there is no way anybody can be, even an atheist cannot be away from Ishvara. But what we see are what? Tribhir gunai mayair bhavehi ebhi sarvam idam jagata. You see Jagat, and the Jagat having what? These three qualities, exhibiting these qualities. Objects, especially living beings, exhibiting these three qualities. What? Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. And you yourself try to what? You also move from all the three. And here he says, that becomes your universe. And you don't see anything beyond that. You see forms and you see qualities within that forms, and you make what? Interactions with those forms, and you gather your experiences of what? Pleasure and pain. And then you try to fix it somewhere or the other. And that's how the whole basis of your interaction with the universe remains before you come to Vedanta. And then he says that when you remain within the forms and the quality of those forms and the interactions, that some interactions are inevitable. Our teacher used to make fun that the minute you get married, mother-in-law walks into your life. You can't avoid it. Mother-in-law, father-in-law, all kinds of characters will walk into your life. You chose your husband, but you didn't choose all the gamut of characters. And they all play what? A part in your drama of life. And they will continue to come. Nobody can control. So this is where there is a very nice verse which is what we call in Bhagavad Gita, which is Gita Dhyana. It says, Bhishma Drona Tata Jayadratha Jala Gandhara Nilotpala Shalya Grahavati Krupena Vahani Karnena Velakula Ashwathama Vikarna Ghora Makara Duryodhana Vartini Sotirna Khalu Pandavaihi Rananadi Kaivartakaha Keshava. Says these Pandavas had to cross what? Rananadi. What is this Rananadi? Nadi means the river. And this is what river? river battle, Rana, battle. Yeah, battle of river. And that river is very difficult to cross because on one bank there is Bhishma and on the other bank there is Drona. They are guarding this. So where is the question of crossing the river where even entering is a problem? These are what? Stalwarts. They are not just some small people. Then it says Duryodhana Vartini. Duryodhana is the whirlpool. And Ashwathama is Makara. Makara is crocodile. So Pandava had to cross the river, which is what, and the flow, which is what taking you, is Karna. They have to cross this river where all these characters are there.
Who is Ashwathama?
Ashwathama is Dronacharya's son. So there are two very powerful people guarding the river. Then there is whirlpool. Then there is crocodile. Then there is this current and flow. Gandhara, Nilotpala. Gandhara is this Shakuni. And Shakuni is Nilotpala. Nilotpala is this lily. But lily looks very attractive, but as you start approaching what? It's all kitchad, kadhav. You sink inside. So this is not an easy job to do. You have to cross over. And how were they able to do it? How were they? Kaivartakaha Keshava. They themselves were overwhelmed, but using the buddhi of Lord Krishna, they were able to skillfully navigate and what? Cross that Nadi and emerge as Buddhas. You come to this world, we all have our fair share of characters. We have our own little Duryodhanas. We have our own what? Shakuni. We have everybody will have some character or the other. Nobody can avoid. And we still have to what? Navigate. Skillfully. With the help of Lord. This is why life without Ishvara, you're a lost soul. You don't know. You just fight and you find, the more you fight, more you find how helpless you are. And the more helpless you find, anger sets in, frustration sets in, self-judgment set in. It's all inevitable. Our teacher used to say, I don't know how people can live without Vedanta.
I also felt that.
How did we?
How did exactly? Right? So this is what it says, that the entire moha is what in this tackling with the world. And the tackling with the world is not easy. But the tackling, you feel you're in charge and you want to tackle it on your terms. As long as you feel you're in charge, Lord Ishvara is having a laugh. Letting you do. Go ahead. Enjoying the show. How far you can go. What all can you do. Right? So this is what he says. Mohitam nabhijanati mamebhyah paramam vyayam. So that means they are all, the whole concentration is what? On the people and the characters and tackling and dealing and changing the world, and the whole thing show goes on. And they are so engaged in everything that what? Na abhijanati. They don't know me, Mam. They don't know who me. What is this? Param Avyayam. That Ishvara, which is always present, in form of that intelligence, which is what always missed out. And this is how, as Nita said, if human life is meant for moksha, why don't people go for moksha? Because of this reason. They just see forms, they see characters, and they just blindly, everybody starts engaging and trying to fix either in or out, but without knowing realities. And they continue.
We might want to stop this.
Okay, so now with the we will stop here, and I will do the. Now we are on 14. Yeah, verse 14. In the evening. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shri